Commissioner, I guess we've kind of been, as I've been sitting here and listening to the proposed rule that we don't have in our hands yet, I've looked on your website, and it's not on the website. We talked about a 6-page handout with some slides, and it's a proposed rule, right? Can you clarify a little bit? Are we following Colorado? That's on your website. Or are we following California? Are those two rules the same?
So, yeah, Mr. Chair and Senator, so what I can say is we did the notice of intent to adopt rules, or to propose rules, and now the rules should be coming out in March. Yes, the rule will follow much of what we've seen in Colorado. Again, the place where we have some variance is in the credit system that we're putting forward and would be putting forward. And that is something that's currently in discussion with the manufacturers right now on how that credit system would work. Do you want to say anything?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So next question is, specifically speaking, how many cars does Ford Motor Company sell in Minnesota in a year?
How many cars does Ford sell?
Roughly.
Sure, any idea?
Do you know that? Did we look at that?
We don't have the manufacturer-specific vehicles right now at our fingertips. We'd have to get that.
They're actually on the testifier list, I believe, so maybe we
Yeah,
can get
you'll,
that.
you'll be able to find that out.
Between the California rules that have been implemented in the past and the Colorado rules, and I'm assuming that the Minnesota rules will be verbatim, correct?
Commissioner?
Mr. Chair,
Under
Senator Lane,
federal statute, it should be, correct?
Yes. For the grams per mile, the only difference that we're looking at in comparison to Colorado is what we're doing with early action credits to set up the zero emission vehicle credit system.
What percentage of vehicles from Ford is going to be required to be electric?
So, Mr. Chair.
Because that number, you said 6 to 8. Isn't that already set in statute?
So that would be, again, it depends on how much they're selling. And again, what we're seeing is, Ford is coming with more. So it could be, we believe it would be about 6 to 8% of vehicles. Is that right? Or
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Senator Lane, that 6 to 8% is total vehicles. To actually get down to the exact manufacturers, we need to look at their exact sales, and then we would have that calculated for their compliance purposes, and that's what the rule will set up, is how we're going to calculate that into the future. So their first year of compliance, they will know what their compliance schedule would be. And I'd have to go back to check to see if we have broken that data out by manufacturer as of yet, or if we're setting up the calculation method that California has set that up, how we calculate what Ford would be required, what General Motors would be required, what the various manufacturers would be required.
Why is it 6 to 8? Because that's California said?
Mr. Chair, Senator Ling, that is the targets that California has set and that the other states have also adopted for the number of credits and how they get translated into the number of vehicles.
Why?
Really, it's about the number of credits is what the rule will actually speak to.
Why 6 to 8?
Senator Lang.
Mr. Chair, Senator Ling, that was based on California looking at how they can provide the proper market signals, incentives to the manufacturers to deliver these kinds of vehicles. These rules were put into place more than a decade ago by some of these states to begin to build the market. And California has requirements also for the reduction of greenhouse gases, and the transportation sector is one of their most significant sectors. So they're looking for the targets that will allow them to continue to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, just like Minnesota is looking to use this as a tool to begin to trend downward for the statewide greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector.
So wouldn't 10 be better?
Mr. Chair and Senator, certainly if they can bring in 10%, that would be great, and we'd welcome that. But so
is it a calculation on what the industry can handle financially?
part of that was a calculation to get what he said to those levels, as well as keeping in mind of what they're doing. What I can tell you is, just in sitting around with the manufacturers, which included Ford, they are investing heavily in electrification, and they can't get models here soon enough. So that's part of what they're talking about is they're coming out with the electric F-150. They have a plug-in F-150. The manufacturers are investing in electric,
So
and
the point
Senator
I'm-
Lang, and then one more
and
question.
point I'm
certainly, this
trying
isn't
to-
going to put a cap on what they can provide in. If they want to provide in more, we'd certainly
Right.
welcome it.
And the point I'm trying to make is, shouldn't we, as a state, be incentivizing these companies, like Senator Bach said, instead of penalizing them?
So, Mr. Chair and Senator, we do not, in this rulemaking, that is part of what we're assessing on if this is a penalty. We do not see it as a penalty because there hasn't been difficulty in them, or there hasn't been compliance, cost of compliance that we've seen in the other states that have adopted this. Second, yes, and there should be incentives for consumers as well. And we see that as a real benefit that could be put forward. And I know the House has a proposal right now, and I assume one will be put forward in the Senate as well, too, that offers consumers incentives. Other states have incentives for consumers that purchase these electric vehicles. And I would
So
hope that that
one
will
last
hold.
question, then I'll be done, Mr. Chair. In 2024, if Ford sells 5% of its vehicles electric vehicle, will they pay a penalty?
Commissioner.
So, Mr. Chair, Senator, say that again?
In 2024, if Ford sells 5% of its vehicles as an EV vehicle or zero emission or whatever the numbers turn out to be, and it's only 5%, will they pay a penalty?
So, Mr. Chair, what we discussed earlier was that if they can't be able to make that up in the credits, that there would be a compliance schedule for them to come on
They'll
board.
have a
And we
financial
see-
obligation.
And we see that, that is something that is being analyzed right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's not our intent to punish manufacturers. It's our intent to meet manufacturers where they're going.
Yeah,